Hi, my name is W.A. I'm a dietitian, and what we're going to do is talk the next few minutes about bariatric surgery. So, you've decided to go through bariatric surgery. You've taken your due diligence, you've gotten your referral to your surgeon, you've done all the education you need to, you've done all the referrals you need to, and now you've had bariatric surgery. Whether you've had the lap band, or you've had the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, or you've had the gastric sleeve. We want to keep these in mind, but now the question is, what do we do to make this surgery the most effective for us? Well, first, let's remind ourselves a little bit of the change we've done in our anatomy. If you have had one of the surgeries, keep in mind your old stomach. Your old stomach used to be about this size, about the size of a softball. Now that you've had the surgery, we have changed it. As a result, your stomach is about the size now of a golf ball. So having a golf ball around may not be a bad idea for you. If you've had the gastric bypass, Roux-en-Y, or if you've had the lap band, it's going to be right at around this size, 30 mLs, size of a measuring cup or a medicine cup. But also if you've had the gastric sleeve, it's a little bit more than this, maybe about 50 mL, so it might be the size of, say, maybe like a larger duck egg, something like that, but still a much smaller amount than what you would have had previously when it comes to your old stomach. And now, as we do that, we've got to keep in mind what we're going to do for the rest of our life for eating. This means that we have to come up with a few ideas, a few points of what is going to be very important reminders to make the surgery the most effective for your weight loss and for your general health and well-being. So first things first is protein. You're going to hear that a lot from your surgeon. You'll hear that a lot from your dietitian. You'll hear that a lot from your support personnel that you have around you. Making sure you have enough protein. Remember, protein is very important to make sure that you get your body systems rebuilt, make sure that they are going through all the maintenance that they need to, and healing that is necessary. If we do not get enough protein in our body, protein malnutrition can be a major issue, and that can lead to some hospitalizations, that can lead into poor wound healing, that can lead to a lot of issues overall for quality of life. Depending on where you go, you'll hear anything from 60 grams a day to 80 grams to 100 grams, depending on what your surgeon or your dietitian tell you. Keep those numbers in mind. You may even want to write them down and put them in a safe place. But how do you know if you're getting enough to eat on a daily basis? That leads into the second thing that can be very, very important, and that is tracking your intake. And we call that a food diary. Now, food diaries can be done a few ways. The old school way is using a steno-pad or paper that you have and writing down some very important things. One, making sure that you're writing in the time when you're eating your food. Two, making sure that you're marking down what foods you have to eat. And three, making sure you mark down how much you eat. And then the hidden one, fourth one that they don't talk about, how do you feel as you're eating? Are you happy? Are you sad? Are you frustrated? Are you stressed? Whatever those things are. Those can be some very helpful cues for your dietitian or for your doctor in terms of when they look at your diet for how well you're eating, and are there any triggers that are going on that we might need to address in your eating after having surgery. Now, if writing everything down seems a little cumbersome, and maybe you're a little bit more technologically savvy, there's a lot of things that have come out in the last couple of years to really help you out. There are multiple websites out there where you can actually track your intake. ChooseMyPlate.gov is a very popular one. I hear a lot of bariatric patients talk about Spark.com. Those can be a couple places. There are some other ones that are out there. All you gotta do is a quick little Google search and it'll give you a number of them. But also, you may have a smartphone. If you have a smartphone, you have a food diary right here. There are multiple apps out there that you can get a hold of that you can track your food with. And what can be very helpful with this is each time you're going to see your surgeon, each time you're going to go see your dietitian, have several of these days ready so they can take a look at it. And if you have more information about how much you're eating, are you staying close to those parameters for calories that they told you? The 1,200 to 1,400 or so calories per day. Are you staying close to the protein goals that they're giving you per day? Those kind of things help. Are you staying close to those carbohydrate goals that they may have given you? Now, carbohydrates are important, but we also now have to be cautious about the third thing. dumping syndrome. Now, dumping syndrome is usually related to getting too much sugar. Now, when you get too much sugar, things aren't going to feel just right. You may feel a little lightheaded. You might feel a little sweaty. You might feel a little dizzy. Things just don't feel right at all. You might even feel nauseous. In the end, something's going to come out. And it's going to come out of one side or the other, and it's not going to feel good. And it's going to feel really bad. And when you're done, you're going to take a horrible nap because it's just rough. For lack of a better term, you might feel like you're on the wrong end of a rocket ship. Or you might feel like you've been a part of your own Drano experiment and your insides were the pipes. It just isn't fun. It isn't pretty. But making sure you keep your sugar low enough is a big deal. Depending on where you go, your institution, I've heard anywhere from 5 grams per meal to 10 grams per meal to 20 grams per meal. Whatever they say, keep an eye on that number and write it down. That's a very, very big number to keep in mind, because if you get too much, ooh, it's not fun and it's not pretty for anybody around. But this leads into a fourth one that is very, very important. If we have issues with dumping syndrome, then we're going to have issues with our hydration. Hydration is a major deal. Depending on where you go, in terms of your news getting, all the health people will say the same thing. Make sure you get 8 glasses of 8 ounces of fluid a day, or 64 ounces. Well, we say the same thing. We want you to get 48 to 64 ounces a day as well. But getting those 64 is a lot harder. A lot harder. You've got to constantly be sipping on fluid throughout the day, whether we're talking water, whether we're talking something like a G2, whether we're talking your protein supplement that you may be drinking. All those things can be very, very helpful for getting enough fluid in, but we have to make sure we get enough in. If we have issues with dumping syndrome, that can make the gathering of fluid that much harder. Usually one of the major reasons why people will come back to the hospital after having a bariatric surgery will be related to dehydration. Whether it's for not getting enough water in, whether it's something going on internally with the anatomy, we're having lots of nausea and vomiting and we're not getting the fluid in, or it could just be a lot of dumping syndrome issues, or a lot of, well, not remembering the fluid we need to take in. So tracking that fluid is a very, very helpful thing. The fifth idea that we want to do is we want to make sure to maintain our vitamins and minerals. Most of the studies that are out there will say anything from 2 vitamins twice a day if you've had Roux-en-Y gastric bypass, to 1 or 2 a day multivitamins if you've had the gastric sleeve, and usually about 1 a day if you're having the lap band. Calcium, it'll be the same kind of numbers. For B12, if you've had the Roux-en-Y or if you've had the gastric sleeve, they're going to say that you need B12. Whether you do that sublingually once a day or whether you do a B12 shot once a month, that's going to be needed to make sure you get enough in. We haven't noticed this until the last few years, how easy it is for someone to get malnutrition that we once associated in third world countries. But because of some of the malabsorption issues that someone can have, especially with the Roux-en-Y, but to lesser degrees with the gastric sleeve and with the lap band, getting those micronutrients through the multivitamins and the multiminerals are essential for good health overall. Some of the food diaries you can work with out there will even have little check boxes to make sure that you're getting those multivitamin, multiminerals on a daily basis. So anything in that realm will be very helpful. If you're unsure, check with your dietitian, check with your physician, check with your surgeon to make sure. They can always run different kinds of blood tests on specific vitamins to see how they're doing in your blood, to see if you need something extra. Iron is not surprisingly a big one that people will run low on, and they may have to get a separate supplement for iron as well. So just keep those things in mind. And the last one is exercise. Undoubtedly, your surgeon has told you once you have the surgery, you need to engage in your exercise. Here's a major reason why. Whether you've had bariatric surgery or whether you haven't, the number one predictor of maintaining your weight loss is exercise. The ACSM defines exercise, good and routine, to maintain this weight loss as being 150 minutes of exercise per week. Now, that means if we're talking, the 5 days of 30 minutes a day, then what they're saying is the actual exercise, not our warm-up, not our cool-down, but the actual exercise of being 30 minutes. So that may mean you need to carve out 45 to 60 minutes a day for that exercise. And if you've not done exercise in a long time, talk with your doctor about, one, what exercises you're cleared to do based off of your own medical conditions. You may also want to talk to them, where can I go for good exercise? Where is there a gym that's inviting for bariatric patients? Do I need to do some therapy first to strengthen certain things up before I engage in exercise? Where can I go? What can I do? And make sure that the doctor can give you some good ideas of where you can go for exercise, whether it is a particular gym that is inviting, whether we start off with a hospital-related program. Any of those things can be very, very helpful. But the big idea is that you continue the exercise throughout the remainder of your life. All these things that we talked about, your protein, your food diary, your lessening of sugar to prevent dumping syndrome, maintaining your hydration, getting your vitamins and minerals, and exercise are big ideas throughout your whole life to maintain, to make sure that not only will you do well after having your bariatric surgery, but that you will thrive after having your bariatric surgery. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.